Hey there everybody and welcome. This is going to be my review on Secret of Grindea. This is Mana, and I'm excited to talk about this because this is a pretty recent release. So this came out February 29th, 2024, and it's only March 2nd. I put about 5.3 hours in, but what really drew me to play this game is that this is apparently something that was 15 years in the making. And hey, one of those Kickstarter games that we all probably supported at one point actually coming out is always a cause for celebration, especially if it's not a big mess when it comes, and it releases. And this one seems like it's pretty solid. I'm going to quickly give you an overall review. It's good. Just so you know, it's good. I'm not going to, waste 15 minutes of your time to tell you, hey, it's a good game. It's pretty fun. Now, just knowing that it's good though by itself doesn't tell you why it's good. It may not be good to your tastes. So I'm going to go into that in a little bit more here. I'm going to do an overview and then I'll talk about some more specifics. I'm going to zoom a little bit ahead in my footage just so you're not staring at me making my character, so you can see some of the artwork going on, so you can see some of the worlds, so you can see sort of like what the menus look like, what the world looks like. Again, I think that's important to have something, visually stimulating there. So I put 5.3 hours into this, and I think I'm comfortable enough to give a review of it. Obviously, it's not a comprehensive review. I haven't mastered the game. I have not fought all 30 of the boss fights that are there. I've fought like 2 humanoids, a giant mech, a giant slime, and I think maybe 1 or 2 other enemies or so, but not a lot. Basically, I'm still pretty early on. There's a lot of side content I came across though. There is fishing, very basic fishing. There are pets you can get, and you can level up these pets and they give you some bonuses. There's crafting, which gives you weapons that might be actually decent. You can buy a home and customize it, which doesn't seem to give stat bonuses that I found, but we'll see how important that is. Still, the existence of all that side content is good. There's a story that's going on the whole time and kind of pushes you forward for it, and there is a lot of grinding, which fits a game called Secrets of Grindea. There's an arcade mode that is like a roguelite version, which does not tie into the main campaign. It's separate from it. Sounds pretty cool. You have 1 life in it. And then apparently you can, I think if you die, I don't know if you reincarnate or whatever, but you're working on building a village or something. I only read about it, so I don't want to comment too much on it. But if you like roguelites and you like the combat system in this game, that's probably something to check out. And really cool fact about this is a 4-player co-op game. You can have up to 4 players play the story or play the roguelite mode. I've not tried either of those, and hey, if you're looking to play with someone, hey, maybe shoot me a comment. Maybe I'd be willing to meet some people from my impressive community of like 5 people. I'm small enough right now that hey, I'm willing to chat with my commenters. Obviously, that's not going to be true forever, provided I get bigger. But I really kind of am doing this channel to make friends, to meet some people, share my opinions, and just have a good time and do some cozy things, play whatever games really come to mind, and share what I think about them. Now, I've seen some crazy amount of hours that people put into this game. There's one guy on the Steam review things that had 600 plus hours. That sounds insane to me. But most of the people who seem to have been around for a while were sitting at the 40 to 70 hour mark. I'm going to assume that's around how much it takes to do the story, especially since somebody claimed they beat it with a friend in 40 hours. Obviously, if they were speedrunning it, that's different than if you're taking your time reading everything. I know I'm a little bit slower when I do things. So I think the game itself is pretty fun. I'm going to zoom ahead to myself actually doing some combat and just farming a little bit instead of just staring at menus. I think with co-op, this game will probably be a lot better. For me, it got more enjoyable once I had the ability to summon a little helper, which you could do early on. I just didn't know how good it would be. The skills and everything like that come back pretty quickly. It's pretty fun to use them. It is fun to kill stuff. The early enemies aren't really very dangerous, so they're not a good representation for what you're going to be dealing with in the future. So I think there are some like weaknesses to your early impressions, because you're going to realize, oh, this build where I focused on just berserking and leaving myself completely open to damage might not work out if I'm playing on hard mode, where I can die in like 4 hits, or 3 if I'm in the berserk mode, which obviously was a personal lesson I picked up on. Now, I do think there are some things here that definitely appeal to the monkey brain of grinding. I sat there and I think I ground like for 20 minutes while I was recording this, just killing those early slimes because I was getting levels, I was getting stuff, I was experimenting with skills, and it was fun enough to warrant me doing that, which I think is a pretty decent thing. Now, I do think that if you aren't if you don't get affected by the grind set mentality, you might not have as much fun with that. You might be running through and wondering why you're not getting enough stuff to craft things, and it might get kind of annoying. So there are some definite weaknesses to this if you don't like sitting down and grinding every once in a while. But then why did you get a game called Secrets of Grindea? I mean, you know, it's kind of there in the name. I do feel like it does have a very Zelda Secret of Mana feel to it. Maybe not as refined, even though, you know, it took 15 years to make. It does have some awkward feeling parts to it, but I think that's more in the writing department, more in the very referential nature of it. I'll explain that more a little bit later. But the world is varied enough, it looks pretty enough, it's got the things you'd want it to for this kind of RPG. There's secrets and things to run into, so I think you can have a good time. The story is very jokey. You can tell it's a little bit dated. I mean, there's a cameo Simon from the Yogscast thrown in there, if you know who that is. And I feel like they were really popular like a while back and have fallen off more recently. I don't mean like fallen off like they're doing badly. Obviously, they're a huge channel that's very successful, and I love their stuff. But I mean, I don't feel like they're as popular in pop culture as they used to be. I could be wrong though, because I don't really keep up with that enough. So maybe, you know, but either way, I remember that being a very common thing, like seeing Simon in like that Sonic racing game and a few other things like, well, like 10 years ago maybe, which is kind of fitting for, you know, this game taking 15 years to make. That's kind of my point. There are some things that feel a little dated like that. So let's go to pros and cons really quickly before I, you know, go off on tangents. Pros, it's fun to grind and get power gains. I liked leveling. There's lots of little things you can power up. There's things that synergize well. There's so many different builds you can make. You could make yourself a berserker that just focuses on doing damage with a big two-handed weapon. You could focus on blocking. There's cool one-handed abilities. There's cool two-handed abilities. Everything seems pretty decent, and I definitely need to experiment a bit more with the different weapon types. I found one that I liked, which was the two-handed staff, which is like a two-handed weapon, but it also fires like a little bit of a magic beam, and that means I can use magic spells too, and I'll have some magic attack bonuses. So that, you know, I kind of wanted to go for that kind of mix. There's always something new to loot, and there's definitely things you'll run into in areas that you'll see and say, oh, that's one of those like Metroidvania things where I'm gonna have to come back later and water this plant or step on this thing and I'll get a new place to go or a new item. So, you know, there's reasons to explore and come back to things. Exploration is visually appealing, like there are different areas. They have high respawns, so you're gonna be spending a lot of time just killing stuff, not necessarily appreciating the beauty of the graphics, but I think things look nice. There are some puzzles here and there. They're not too plentiful and they're not annoying. I found that the puzzle to like combat ratio was actually really decent, and none of the puzzles were like frustrating so far. There are also some secrets, like I ran into a boar that does a charge attack, and I found out he could break a rock, which released a chicken, which I needed to save for a quest anyways. And I thought that was kind of a cool way to have a solution. The world does have some interactable elements to it. I think overall it's pretty decent. Battle is simple, but it does have some limited depth. You know, there are perfect guards, there are abilities that synergize, there are things like, oh, if you don't attack for 3 seconds, your next hit is more powerful. There are things where like, you know, you get some actual weapon skills where you can aim them. There's a lot of things you can do. You can also have summoned pets and like maintenance buffs that you maintain as you go through and kill tons of enemies. I definitely changed my build a bit from just being like a berserker to focusing on other things later, because I was dying a little too much as a berserker. Playing on hard mode might not have been the best choice to begin with. I think you can change it, but I haven't tried. I kind of like sitting on hard mode. I just adapted my playstyle to make it work. Range is a little bit more OP, I think. It feels a little safer to have ranged options. Although melee does let you clear things out in like an AoE effect a little quicker, at least with the limited amount of skills I have. The thing is, I didn't play enough with like active skills, so I'm sure this can be a little different, and with a little more experimentation, like I plan to probably pick up one-handed and mess with that. I plan to probably pick up, you know, some magic spells and mess with those. But right now I'm pretty happy. I'll show my like later build a little bit further in. Now, the bad with the combat, I feel like sometimes it's a little bit too reliant on moving away from things. Like, you can perfect guard, but there are things you can't perfect guard, so it feels like you generally just want to like circle around the enemy like a madman and get like 1 or 2 strikes in or do a skill and then just keep doing that. It's not bad, it can be fun, but it does feel like, you know, again, it's one of those things that punishes you for being in melee for too much, just randomly. Now, sometimes you could be very powerful in melee though, so it really just depends on the enemy you're facing. I did get kind of annoyed when they threw large swaths of enemies at me, because it can be very hard to read what you're doing, especially for enemies like slimes and rabbits, which are like those, you know, they're just little blobs. It can be kind of hard to tell when they're doing an attack. Other enemies can do like a big strike and it's easy to read and to parry it intentionally, but some of them, they get kind of lost in the noise, especially in those big battles, and it just gets kind of frustrating, especially when a bee can kill you in like 4 hits, because the only way to kill a bee is, unfortunately, you have to block it. You have to block the bee first in order for it to hit the ground, and then you can hit it, which you can imagine is annoying if it's part of a huge mass of things trying to kill you. Oh, there's the Simon reference, by the way. So yeah, I can't say that I was crazy about that aspect of things. Here's some of the fishing. Here's me killing some basic things. Here, I'll put a boss fight on here. Difficulty though, it does feel good. I do think that playing on hard was enjoyable for me because I like having to like think a little bit. There is healing in normal areas, like when you're farming. Bosses haven't felt impossible, but it did take me a few tries to actually beat, like, you know, each boss, and I had to learn, okay, what am I supposed to do here? And I think that's good. I don't like it if I just kill a boss in like 2 hits and that's it. That tends to not be so decent for me. Do I think RPG stuff's good? I think the RPG stuff is actually pretty decent here. There are a lot of choices. Your equipment is important for the stats you have. So if you don't pick things that synergize well with what you're trying to do, you're going to struggle. You might want to pick up some defense. You might want to pick up more magic attack because you can make all your magic attack become normal attack too with a certain talent. Well, not all of it, but a percentage of it. You do have to think, like, look, in this boss fight, I was trying to just, you know, spam fight it, and it did not work for me. The game also gives you some hints if you're struggling, but it's kind of limited. The story is super basic. So here, I'll show my win here. The story is super basic. You know, you literally start in a place called Startington. You know, the main city that you go to is called Evergrind City. You know, there's obviously some limitations as to what you're looking at here. So you know, I found myself enjoying the story. I found myself enjoying the different areas. Here's where I got that achievement of just guarding, if you want to know, because I was just doing this trying to kill something. Where is this? Let me see if I can scroll back a little bit. Yeah, so you can go, where is it? To the south of the city, I think it is. Let me see if I can give that to you guys here. All right, so I'll play it from that point so you guys can see if you want to get that shield. Anyways, yeah, the story, I think the story is very jokey. The humor is kind of cheesy. It's not bad humor. It's just very referential at times. It's very in your face. You know, like one of the dungeons, which I was looking at like later, this like sci-fi dungeon just keeps referencing the fact that there is a Gundam, and you know, it spells it a little bit differently, but it's like, oh, the Gundam is doing this, and the Gundam is a powerful weapon, and like they must have said the word Gundam like 8 times in that dungeon, in various little things, and that itself wasn't bad. It's just, if you don't love that kind of humor, or you feel like that kind of breaks your immersion or breaks the fun of the world, then you might get a little annoyed. Personally, it doesn't bother me. It's just that, you know, I'm not here for the story, and it's not the kind of game that's, you know, got you here for the story. It's just very silly. It's just fun. It's having fun. It's a cozy game. It wants you to grind and have fun playing it, and it gives you a reason to keep moving. There's cool little secrets to find, and, you know, like, I think that's nice. But the world's not going to feel real to you because obviously, you know, you're dealing with things that are just a bunch of jokes. There are some things that are funny, like there was a woman that was crying about her son being sick, and I thought it was gonna be the tragic, like the classic tragic RPG thing. Oh, my son has got an incurable disease, but no, she was just like, oh, he's sick. I hope he gets better, because otherwise I have to get my fingers dirty weeding the garden later. I thought that was kind of amusing. It was just a cute little thing. Now, I think it was good. The story is good enough that there was numerous times where I was telling myself, oh, I'm gonna pause here for my review because like I want to, you know, actually put this thing out here, but I was like, but I want to do just one more thing, and then I would say, let me just do this one more thing too, and then another thing. So it got me into it, but again, I could sit here for 20 minutes. Like I think in this part of the video, I'm here for like, oof, way too long. So let me see. I'm just killing stuff from in this one area. I got here 47. Oh boy. Yeah, so like I probably spent like an hour or two just grinding out in this one zone a little bit. I mean, I was doing some quests and things too and talking to some people. But I spent a long time just goofing around. This is also where I changed my build, and I am using more a two-handed staff, and I have this nice little summon which you see running around with me, and he can really punch the heck out of enemies. There's also pet commands, which using the same pet command, you can using the same ability that you use to summon him, you can give him like a command like to enter frenzy status or to shield himself and heal back up so he doesn't pass out and take a long time healing. So you do have to watch your pet a little bit, but I think that's kind of cool. On his own, he does very well too, though, and he does draw some aggro, which is very helpful. He's also very good on bosses because he can just do tons of damage while I'm focused on not getting killed by like a bullet hell, which some bosses surprisingly have. Not all of them, but some of them do. I also have like this little magic, like these little magic cubes around me, which are based on when I do melee strikes, which I try to do with my staff. They do some elemental damage, so I thought I got a build that was pretty cool as I got further into the game. You know, there was definitely a lot to get out of it. This is earlier gameplay. Let me load my latest stuff up. You know, here's me in the one of the earlier dungeons. I think there's like, you know, there's things to do. This is the first dungeon I really got to where there was like little tests on it. It still felt very tutorialized. They were like, oh, do this dodging puzzle or show me that you can perfect parry. So I think this is meant to be like, you know, if you didn't learn it yet, this place is supposed to teach you some stuff. I think I was trying to experiment if I could perfect block these things for a while. Yeah, because I definitely could have made it this first time, but I was seeing if I could parry the wall. Obviously I couldn't. But death really doesn't have much of a consequence. You reload in the same little zone you're in, and you don't really seem to lose anything. So I never really worried about dying. One annoyance I'm going to briefly mention is if you have a buff like the one I have around me with the little cubes that you have to summon up, that will disappear from area to area, like loading screen to loading screen, which really can be kind of annoying. Thankfully your pet doesn't do that. Oh, that would annoy me so much. But that's only one of the few things I found was kind of frustrating, and it's only frustrating mostly because like if you jump into a fight right away, you just don't have your stuff ready to go, or sometimes your pet can be stuck outside the arena. He does teleport in pretty quickly, but still it's a minor annoyance. Obviously, you know, if you're like me, you don't like having that like, oh, here's a little bit of weakness thing here. Like I don't want to have to like summon a bunch of stuff and, you know, start the fight off on a bad foot, especially when I can die in like a handful of hits. So, you know, that was something that I had to keep in mind. I do think that some of the there's the Gundam thing. I do think that there some of the references, like they're a little bit awkward in that I notice and feel the referential nature of the game. And if you're like me and you're like sometimes like that takes you out, you're gonna be taken out. But if you're also like me, you can enjoy the fact that, hey, the game's not really about that, and you'll just, you know, you'll have fun with it, but you just won't take it too seriously, which it's a lighthearted game. You're not supposed to anyways. It's supposed to be goofy. It's supposed to have a nice feel. Still, outright using references like, oh, it's a Gundam and all that kind of stuff, it does feel a little on the nose. Now the grind. The grind is very real because I think the most important thing you want to get, which the game pretty much highlights in the beginning by giving you a free card, are cards. And what these are permanent buffs you get from killing each type of enemy you encounter. Pretty sure they do not come from bosses because that would be a nightmare. But normal enemies all have cards. I think I've gotten 2 or 3. One of them was like a 20% reduction in charge time for like anything that requires a charge time, which is pretty crazy good. The basic one they give you is like an increased range of drawing items into you. I think I got another one that just added like 10 attack speed or 10 attack, which is actually pretty decent early in the game when certain items are like plus 30, and that's a lot. So you know, it's pretty strong, and if you accumulate enough of these permanent bonuses, that's good. There are ways to increase your card drop. Like I picked a potion, which you have at the beginning, you have one potion that constantly refills, and I picked the potion that wasn't the healing one. I picked the one that gives me a higher RNG rate on getting card drops and other item drops. And that proved to be a good choice. I think I took an embarrassingly long amount of time on that puzzle. So I'll cut to me solving that puzzle so I look a little less stupid. Because, you know, I definitely frustrated myself doing this, and I don't know why I took so long to solve it, but anyways, this is just so you can see one of the puzzles though that is here, so you know that they exist. Now the card drop things, obviously you don't need the cards. Like I doubt that you'd play the game and be like, oh, you can't win if you don't get enough of these card bonuses, but obviously you want them. And I've definitely killed some enemies a ton and never gotten their thing, even while using the potion and maxing out a talent which further increased the percent chance that I was already getting for card drops. So I do feel like that's a little bit annoying, but I think that's kind of the point. Like it's supposed to be a grind. You're not supposed to 100% all of it super fast. Maybe there's a system that makes it easier, or maybe the intention is you get stronger and then you go back to a zone. Because I definitely go to a zone with hard enemies and try to beat them and grind them. And while that's good for experience, that's obviously not optimal for getting, you know, rare drops. Anyone can tell you that if they know what a grind is like, and I know that too. But it just happens to be, you know, if I'm getting experience and new items anyways, I might as well do that. But yeah, I'm surprised that I haven't gotten more of them in the time that I played, but I'm sure it'll become easier, and I feel like they'll probably add some systems to do something about that. So in conclusion, I think this is a fun game. I think if you were to co-op this leisurely with someone who's not like super good at gaming, which, you know, like your girlfriends or your friend who's just kind of casual, or your boyfriends who, if you're you know, a girl gamer and you're the real gamer of the group, you know, whoever is the real gamer, whoever their partner is or whoever their friend is who isn't, you're probably not going to do hard mode because it's going to get frustrating. Oh, I forgot this boss fight existed. This was more of a minion boss fight. Not sure if this counts towards the 30. Well, let me talk about the mechanics here, might as well. Every fight I've fought so far does have some mechanics. This one has a bunch of those little crystals that spawn in that provide buffs to the enemies in the area. Like, that might give them shielding, which makes them invincible. They might shield the boss, which makes it invincible. They might shoot little beams around, which do damage to you, or summon purple masses that suck you into it with a gravity spell. There's actually something going on, which is pretty cool. I do like that. Let me zoom ahead to the Gundam, which I was so, you know, frustrated with its name. I found this fight to be a little challenging at first because I didn't expect what happened here, and I might as well talk about it just so you guys get an idea of what some of the boss fights are like. Because I'm pretty much at the end of my general review. Like, I've covered all the main things. I'll say one more thing. I think the game is somewhat streamable. I think this would be fun to play on stream with somebody. Once again, I wish I had someone for that. Maybe when I'm a bigger streamer, if that ever happens, or if I ever actually start streaming, which I have to do, and I meet some people, this would be something fun that I would want to play with somebody that's like, you know, got a good personality about it. We can make some like synergistic builds. But right now you can see how helpful my summon is. Like, it is making my life so much easier here because it does a ton of damage. I can activate its power effect, which I just did there, and it just starts going crazy. Thankfully, it teleports around the field very well, so that's good programming. You know, it only gets stuck outside of certain arenas. I think I have footage of that. I'll show that later. This boss fight's not too bad though. Dodging all the things, it's not like it's too hard to like get out of the way of stuff. Maintaining my boss isn't too bad. Obviously, I'm not a perfect player, but you can see I'm getting like a good strategy going here. Now, this boss fight did surprise me though because it has a bullet hell phase. My initial way of handling this was to go crazy and just try and knock it out of that bullet hell mode as quick as possible, because I wasn't really thinking about it, and I didn't really, like, I just, for some reason in my mind, I was like, I gotta dodge it by walking and not blocking, and then I just tried to face tank everything with a block, and obviously that guard broke me. What you actually need to do is, once the blue beams start coming out, which I just got obliterated by, but once the clusters of blue start coming, you want to keep your shield up, because the little bullets don't really damage your shield that much, but the clusters will eviscerate you. You just have to side strafe while blocking when those clusters come out, just to survive the assault. And as long as you keep sidestepping with your guard, and my guard's not even upgraded, like I walk at the lowest speed because I haven't given myself the guard move speed yet on as a talent at this point. I did eventually get that. You can just side strafe it and you'll be fine. And it's a very sensible solution. Like, I'm not telling you some big secret. I'm just letting you know what the solution ended up being, because I was just trying to monkey mode, you know, like just smash it. And obviously that's not, you know, when you go gorilla brain on something and you're not really thinking and you're just kind of like me smash, you know, you're gonna die, especially on hard mode in this. Eventually though, I brutalized myself enough to learn this instead of just trying to like power through it, and I do end up getting the kill relatively cleanly. I'm not sure if this is the one, but even if you kill this boss super fast and you burst through it, it does have a final phase where, even though it's at 0 health, it makes you survive a bullet hell zone. So it does force you to learn this. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen with all the boss fights, or they just want to make each boss fight a little bit different. But frankly, I'm happy with it. I think that's kind of a cool way to handle things. The boss fight's involved, and it's got something going on for it. Here, you can see I killed it, but I didn't really kill it, because now it's going to enter its mode. I'm not sure if this is where I learned what I had to do yet. This might still be when I was being dumb. Yeah, that was definitely one where I was still being dumb. Which, you know, does happen for me for a bit. So I'll show it off right here just so you guys can see it. I mean, this is just extra fluff on the video. I don't expect anyone to really get all the way through here, but I kind of want to show it off. I put a buff on just so my my guard would recharge a little faster, so that I could just sit there and be lazy. So you can see this time I just took a corner, and I tried to make sure I would not just sit there and eat the blue beams, and I just kept strafing. I took a few hits here or there, but I had enough health to do that without too much of a problem, and I was dodging most of the other things. Took some hits, but it wasn't impossible. And again, it's hard mode. I ground a little bit. I mean, you know, I can't say I haven't grinded a lot, probably compared to some people, but it's not like I was giving myself tons of HP with that. So I think this is just, you know, just so you can see the bosses do have some engagement to them. You do have to think about it. Let me see. There's definitely new quests come into the main town when you go back to it after doing something major, which is pretty good. You know, you'll have some turn-ins. There's like an arena mode, which completely surprised me because it had a humanoid boss that I encountered earlier, this Villia, inside of it, and then tons of enemies, which was frustrating. And then I thought I was done, and then a whole new round started, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna be able to do this yet. I'm gonna wait till I level up some skills. So I don't really have that too long. I got my house. Oh, here's another boss fight, just so you guys can see some of those if you're curious about how different these can be. This is the one where sometimes that my pet was getting stuck outside. The first time he didn't, but on some follow-ups you can see him kind of down there at the bottom. It took him a second to get in. I had to resummon him, which cost me that fight. Eventually I kind of got the hang of it. But yeah, you can see like this is a typical thing where the guy like flies around, does some combos. Now, perfect guarding can sometimes be, again, it's hard without a lot of wind up, especially in a 2D game. You kind of just have to learn the pattern, or kind of understand when you get close to an enemy, they're probably going to melee you. I do think that's something that can be a little frustrating, but I still found the fights fun. I still found it pretty enjoyable. Here's a boss that I don't think I can beat yet, which is just a repeat of the other slime, but it's a lot faster. And all those puddles it leaves are like to have a slowing effect, and the jump this thing does insane damage. Now, I was not doing a lot of damage here, and you can see like if it hits me, you know, it's 107 damage each hit, and I have 366 health, and I don't have a healing potion yet. I'm going to be getting a healing potion. My first potion was the grinding focused one because, well, duh. but even then the healing potion isn't going to be that strong, I don't think, for that. So you know, that's going to be a little bit of a concern. Oh, here's the housing system. You can see it's kind of simple, just so you can kind of get a glance at that. Yeah, it's not like anything too crazy. You can rotate things. The story does get a little more interesting. You get another companion who's a fairy, who of course does a "Hey Listen" reference, because this is a 15-year-old in the making thing, and I don't think I think if you have a fairy and you don't do a "Hey Listen" reference, then I don't know, you're probably not a real gamer. Anyways, I think it's a really good game. I just want to kind of get my review out there because I know it's pretty new. Some of you might want to see some of the content. I want to see what the combat and what the world looks like. Hopefully my video has given you like a nice overview if you're curious about it, and you can kind of get like an idea as to whether or not you may like it or not. If anyone's interested in seeing more footage, or they want me to show something specific, like, hey, can you show me like the bow, or can you show me like a weapon or whatever, I you know, you can tell me in the comments. I doubt anyone's gonna really need that though. I think this is worth it. If you have some friends, this will probably be a cool time. Some of my friends might be into it, but I don't know, like I'd have to see. Anyways, I hope you have a great time. If you get this game, I hope you have fun with it, and I'll catch you later. See ya.